What screams pretending to be upper class? Talking about how expensive everything you have is and how much money you have. I've found that truly wealthy people don't feel compelled to talk about it constantly. A friend of mine said that a woman she had to deal with would spend $20 on something worth $10 and then tell her she spent $30 on it. I work at an exotic car rental branch. I have plenty of customers that rent our cars and ask us to take the ID tags off the key ring. Understandable. Then I have some that insist they get the same license plate each time and will flip out if I give them the same model as usual but with the plate one digit off. They are trying to make the appearance to whoever that they own the car and get themselves in a trap where they have to keep renting to keep up the illusion. That charade never lasts long. This is cringe. One of my husband's best friends comes from a filthy rich family. Think billions. We went to his wedding a few years ago and the social experiment that ensued was beyond fascinating. The guests themselves were a mix of anyone from broke college kids, us, to doctors, to millionaires and billionaires. Some trends definitely emerged amongst the people who were obviously self-conscious about their wealth though. They were frequently dismissive, and sometimes downright rude, to the serving staff. They made sure logos of their belongings were plainly in sight. Your hotel room is literally connected to the reception venue, so I know you didn't need to bring your $1,200 Canada Goose parka to dinner. They also made sure to talk loudly about their expensive plans for the future and highlighting any wealth-related attributes in the process. Oh well, my girlfriend is graduating medical school next year, so we're starting to look at houses mostly in the $800K $1 mil range. It was a stark contrast against the people who were comfortable with their social status, wealthy or otherwise, who were all just happy to be there, having fun, drinking alcohol and wholly unworried about which stranger they'll never meet again knows how much money they wish they had. Putting entrepreneur on any social media platform bio. When I see this I always think to myself, so you're unemployed. Constantly altering your pink Chanel suit to fit in at a country club. For once, maybe someone will call me sir without adding you're making a scene. McMansions without curtains or furniture in the upstairs. Curtains are effing expensive, bro. LMAO, my parents put shower curtains up in their house. Throwing parties every week and calling everyone old sport. All for that girl that lives right across from you. Talking about possessions. Slipping dollar amounts into conversations. Act like you've been there before. So you're saying I shouldn't brag about my favorite $7 boots that I bought at a thrift store? Knew a guy that once worked as a waiter at the restaurant at a high-end country club. He said it was pretty obvious who was new money and who was old money. New money people always made a point of getting the most expensive dinner on the menu, and the fanciest wine, and so on. Because they had imposter syndrome from hell and felt like they had to act the part in order to prove that they deserved to be there. Old money would order a cheeseburger and a Coke because that's what they were in the mood for. Damn, the McDonald's kid for sure thinks I'm old money. Getting married in a big fat wedding by taking out loans. Borrowing from friends. Plus, getting super expensive rings when you can't afford 1/10 of it. This may not be as bad as some of the other answers, but a friend of mine took out a loan for $250,000. I promise, I am not exaggerating this number, to pay for her dream wedding to a guy she had known for 3 months. They got divorced after less than a year and she is still in debt from it. $5,000 purse with no money in it. Pronouncing your name bouquet. The bouquet residence. The lady of the house speaking. My uncle and his wife are perfect examples. They bought a brand new Mercedes that they can't afford, live in a house that's too big for them, bought a caravan in a park where the ground rental is nearly $50K a year. They bought their kids expensive bikes that were never used, and what did they use to pay for all this? If you guessed credit cards, then you are correct. Credit cards and loans from my grandmother which they will never pay back. Then they make fun of my mother and I for being working class. Might as well spit on my grandfather's grave since he was working class through and through. Yeah, financing a lifestyle is insane. Going into debt for luxury items is the craziest thing people do. I used to be concerned about how I looked dressed when going to a high-end retailer. Now I simply don't care. If they won't serve me when wearing jeans, then I'll just go somewhere else. This actually happened to me. I needed new glasses and I walked into a bunch of different stores and couldn't find the right frame. I ended up walking into a very high-end store because of the frames I saw in the window and asked to try them on. I was wearing sweats and a t-shirt because it was my day off work. I have to wear professional clothing to work. The lady looked at me for a moment before saying it's very expensive and not making one move to help me. So I ended up saying to her I didn't ask how much they cost, I said I wanted to try them on. The shock on her face was priceless. After trying them on and being happy with how they looked, I proceeded to pay for them. I return about once a year and I get the best service from her now. One of my dumbest goals in life is to be well off so I can go into fancy places dressed in sweats and just be labeled eccentric instead of that unhinged woman. I am unhinged, but they don't need to know that. Shopping in the curtains aisle of Walmart and openly declaring to me, an employee trying to zone, that we have no taste. I wish employees were allowed to sass back at stuff like that. I actually did throw it back at her by saying, "Miss, this isn't TJ Maxx." Struggling to scrape together the minimum payments on a luxury car. Talking down to working class people. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely snooty asshole upper class people, however in my interactions with them as a working class person in services they've always been extremely nice. My guess is because we both know who we are in society, so there are no pretensions. Fake upper class people have to completely reinforce the class divide. It had to be absolutely clear that they are and always have been above you. Part of me thinks it's resentment at what they might have used to have been, and the other part thinks it's how they think other upper class people behave. One thing I also noticed, working in construction around wealthier people, the rich man is the nicest person you'll ever meet. He'll offer you a nice break time and talk like one of the guys. The rich man's spouse is a B. Don't even look at them. The rich woman is the friendliest person ever. She will thank you for everything and talk about how she would never be able to do that. The rich woman's spouse is annoying, obnoxious, and snobby. There are, of course, exceptions, but this is what I experienced in my time. This is absolutely true. I used to be a bartender in a very high-end hotel. Our clientele was comprised almost entirely of upper echelon business workers, mid-high-end weddings, and high-end banquets. People with serious money don't give a F. If they have a problem, they aren't scared to tell you about it, and are happy as long as it gets rectified promptly. Otherwise they treat you like a human fine being, and tip well. Generally, people who think they have money are massive meanies. These people act like hodge, treat service workers like hodge, and you can see right through it. And you learn to tell immediately because of little things, like accessories and attitude. People with money never show off the things that prove it, like wallets, watches, jewelry, and purses. If they don't have money, they have one glaringly expensive accessory, and they flaunt that immediate red flag. People with money don't need to act or be told that they are important. Tryhards gonna try hard to make sure you notice they think they are awesome, and also skimp on the gratuity. 20 dudes who pooled their money to pay for one bottle service table at a Vegas club. Source, was one of those dudes. Honestly, if it's 20 dudes, that's more okay. My boyfriend tried to convince me that if I bought a KitchenAid that we'd need to leave it on the counter so people would notice that we could afford to spend $250 on a kitchen appliance. I would love to have one, but I don't bake enough to justify it, and if I ever get one it's going to be stored when I'm not using it because I hate clutter on my counters. Buying expensive clothes, or fake ones, and owning a high-end phone, but you stretch your budget to do this in order to make it seem like you can afford excess when you really can't, and then not getting those expensive clothes tailored. If you are gonna buy the fancy clothes, spend the extra to make sure they actually fit. Damn it. Moving to LA despite not being able to afford living there. Wearing brand clothes that have the huge name of the brand on them. I used to work in one of the brand stores and these were literally made for the lower class that wants to show off. More expensive and higher quality items never had this flexing on them. As a poor, I've noticed that less is more when it comes to casual fashion. Posting pictures of your fancy cars and house renovations, shits, etc. on social media. Real rich people don't actually have to scream I'm rich to be rich. Most people do that for the attention and views, not because they are rich. Definitely buying cars you can't afford. I'm solidly middle class and drive a Ford Focus. Don't buy one. There's and a lot of people I work with that make less than I do, roll in driving big expensive trucks or Mercedes cars. If I can't afford that, I know they can't. I'm a teacher. I'm a bit surprised by what I see some of my colleagues driving at the various schools I go into. Far too many luxury cars for it to the spouse paying for it. We don't get anything that scream pretending to be upper class in Australia at the moment. Thanks to our mining sector, at the height of the boom, someone could leave high school, get some tickets, and pretty much walk into a six-figure job on the mines. So the young man driving around in an expensive muscle car while covered in tattoos, slabs of beer in the back, may not be pretending, but could be a cub, cashed up bogan. Same in the US with oil fields. I had several friends from here in Seattle that went to the Dakotas and got really high paying jobs, then blew it all on expensive cars. Rich people on Instagram are probably mostly fake rich, buying followers. If I were a billionaire, I would not want to be tagged partying on a yacht, especially not in 2020. The only rich people that like to be tagged on their yachts are stupid kids and celebrities that make a living off being a public figure. Most mega rich people that can afford a yacht don't want people to find them through social media. Appearance of wealth, but no philanthropy. Philanthropy is how true upper class people really show off. A subset of this is patronage of the arts. The truly wealthy can afford to finance the culture they want to see. Saw some guys at a stoplight in a convertible 6 Series BMW with the top down blasting music and wearing expensive clothes. I can see his dashboard. Every possible warning light was on. To be fair, in a bimmer those lights probably came on the day he bought it. Conspicuous consumption. Ugly big houses. Flashy things. Diamonds. Gold. Handbags with labels. Leopard print clothes. Fur. Branded goods. Too much plastic surgery. I think I'll stop here as it's not making me feel like a nice person. Knock off luxury brand anything. Usually watches, bags, wallets, clothes. There are plenty of respectable, elegant things that look and work just as well. You're not tricking us, and you're not tricking them, the people who swim in those lanes all the time. My mother is not into trying to appear high-end, so to parody that mentality, she bought a bunch of really massive diamond rings over the years that are 100% fake, and she knew they were. She would intentionally wear them around people she knew who were vain and materialistic so they would and over how my dad takes good care of her. She wouldn't tell them they were fake and would just be chuckling on the inside the whole time. Simply talking about money and how much things cost as way to brag and show others your wealth. I grew up fairly close to my cousin. He's 6 months older than me, and his family, and they are what I consider to be truly wealthy. My uncle was a very well respected dentist who built his practice up from nothing over a 30-year period. He retired in the last 5 years. My uncle grew up in a dirt poor farming family and never flaunted his wealth when he became wealthy. He didn't buy a new sports car every year. He still drives the same sports car he bought 15 years ago. He didn't wear flashy designer clothes. He still wears expensive clothes though, and you'd never know he was a millionaire if you passed him in the street. He owns properties all over the province, for hunting and net worth reasons, owns a mansion in the Bahamas on the beach, and takes trips to Europe yearly. You wouldn't know any of those things unless you knew him on a personal level. On the other side of my family I have an uncle that would be considered upper middle class. He always had to have the fanciest toys, the newest models, etc, and everything was a competition to him. My parents bought a new Cadillac before they retire and of course he had to purchase one as well, except it had to be better. So he bought a CTSV within a month of my parents so he could be better than my parents. He also has to brag about his traveling, telling us of the fun he had in Vegas last week, the exciting trip to Mexico he's taking next, and so on. In my experience there's two types of wealthy. There is the truly wealthy class who are humble people that make smart decisions with their money and don't treat it like a competition. And there is the faux wealthy class who have to try and flaunt their wealth in the face of others as a way of keeping score and ensuring that they are perceived as winning. My ex comes from a really, well, kinda fed up family. Her dad is a multimillionaire who cheated on her mom and wound up leaving, and was by all accounts not a great husband, father, or man. But after he left, My ex's mom became a professional alimony hound. She never got a high school diploma and worked part-time as a hairdresser, but was a single mom in a house that must have been worth $1 million plus. It was clear based on the way she spoke that she was living paycheck to paycheck on gross child support and alimony checks, funding a lifestyle that would disappear completely if something happened to her ex-husband. Her home is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Multiple formal dining rooms, mismatched hardwood furniture everywhere. For some reason every TV is hidden in a closed closet, etc. But the weirdest effing thing, is that there are no clocks in the house. 25 mirrors. There's not a spot in the home where you can't find your reflection, but you never know what time it is. I'm not sure if that's a direct answer to the question, but I thought it was related.